All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Great Tuesday show we have. I'm telling you, when it comes to Tuesday shows, this is a pretty packed one. Don't you agree, Kim? Kim, Tuesday shows. And
it's a great one.
Yeah, this really is a great one. I mean, we typically have, I would say, every team has a superstar. And we have one, and that is David Cay Johnston, everybody. Yeah. So he will join the Pulitzer Prize winner, the investigative journalist, now professor of law. He will join us in hour 2, so that'll be pretty special. And
Kim, how are you?
In hour 1, we talk about AI. I don't know if you've heard about AI, but it's pretty big. Mm-hmm. It's catching on. Where am I? Speaking of eyes, these are my credibility glasses. I need to put them on for instant credibility. Thank you, everybody. Yep, I know. And the AI expert is... And how do you say his name, Kim?
Rahul Powar.
How do you say it?
Rahul Powar.
Rahul Powar. And you say it that way because he says it that way? Or
no, I'm guessing.
Because you're guessing. Yeah. I love it. It's a
I know.
Very on brand for the show. We could ask his publicist or him, how does he say his name?
I just did. Now I know it's late in the game, but I did that. So by the time he comes on, you will have a pronouncer.
Oh,
that is official.
Isn't that great? But we are on and already mentioning his name. So but you're right. By the time he gets here, we're not going to blow his name. Is your
That's
point?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, Tony is here as well.
Thanks, Tony.
And Tony's been working hard, scrambling to get us a video. We'll share with you the video of Donald Trump, who is the president of the United States.
Oh, man.
Talking about sending the military, in addition to the National Guard, into more American cities for our safety. You know what I mean? You can never be too safe. And that means you can never have too many military troops on the streets. How about that World Series game last night? It went, was it 18 innings, Tony?
Yep. 2 full games.
18 innings. It was unreal. I went to the Lakers game, taken by my darling friend and voiceover agent, Mike Shalbetter, who walks into the crypto.com arena. And by the way, the fact that we could have in our country a major arena in Los Angeles called the crypto.com arena tells you all you need to know about America right now. I guess the bullshit.com arena name was taken. The crypto.com arena, he walks in like he's mayor, happy. It was wonderful. And then he walks. And as you're walking to the seats, you're thinking, all right, our seats are going to be good. They'll be down here in this front type section somewhere, I don't know, 60 rows back, 70 rows back. Is really close to the court. He keeps walking and walking and walking. And we're like 3 rows back from the court. It was incredible. I felt like a Make-A-Wish kid. It was like we're like, wow, this is just the greatest. So I'm there at the game, and I love this guy who I've known for so long. He's been my agent for so long. He said, oh, yeah, I have had these tickets for 15 years. I'm thinking, you've had them for 15 years, and this is the first time you've invited me? I mean, I'm just saying. It's, I don't know. I don't mean to be ungrateful, but I'm just going,
How many other people are in front of you on that list?
You're pretty far down the list.
It, do you? I don't get it. I don't get it. I guess there are a lot of other people who are more important clients, or friends.
Hurtful. Wow.
But it didn't eclipse the fact that I was quite grateful and I had a really great time. So anyway, I come all the way home, and the World Series game's still going on. It's all tied up at 5, and I'm watching the end of that game. Only that game doesn't end for another full 9 innings of baseball. So we're sitting there, and when the East Coast, it's got to be close to 3 a.m., right, Tony?
Yeah. And they also, I know they had in Toronto, the inside the baseball stadium there, they had like 20,000 as a watch along inside the stadium. did all of them make it to 3 a.m.?
Yeah, right. Even in
I'd be
Dodger
like-
Stadium, you saw all of these people, and they were, all of a sudden, you're not seeing as many.
And well, 7th inning is when they stopped selling booze, the beer.
Oh, that's right. Right.
So he had a whole game without food or beer.
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
And I found the
wow.
best video from someone, like, you'll get a kick out of this. It's the guy in the control room.
Yeah.
You'll get a kick out of it. I saw this. I'm like, I have to show you this. I saw this last night because you'll see when he hits the victory music. Look what it's on. It's an instant replay.
That's the same machine I use. I use that same machine.
Girl, you just
Yes, the ding comes off. That comes off that machine. That is wonderful.
And it literally says win.
We're in better shape, but I don't think we're in wildly better shape.
I love it. And he has the same scrawl.
Yeah.
That I do. That's exactly what I have little Post-its for the different banks of sounds. And
that's so funny.
That's great, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
That's a great pull. Really, really great. Yeah, 2 games rolled into one. Linda is right. It was pretty crazy. Wow. So, I'm going to go to the game tonight. I just bought a ticket. It just seems like history,
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not you can imagine. I came up a huge Giants fan, so Dodgers are not necessarily. But I also recognize, and National League, root for them, and my friends are all Dodgers fans and stuff. And more to the point, I'm this guy Ohtani who's going to pitch tonight. I mean, he's
tonight. Okay.
He's an extraordinary figure in the history of baseball, and I'm excited to see him. And so I got a really good seat for less money than it's going for. I guess that a bargain on it. So
nice.
yeah, so that's really
Yeah, I got to see him in regular games in Anaheim, which was nice. When he was still an Angel.
yeah. That's right. He started with the Angels and really extraordinary.
They're the
Anyway,
one willing to give him a chance when everyone else was like pitching and hitting. No, that's weird.
yeah, I mean, how about that? I mean, the Dodgers though really turned him into a franchise. I mean, he is a commercial franchise. So
Yeah.
I heard they ran out of baseballs, had to scramble to get more out of storage. Said Sal the Shoemaker. Is that right?
They run out of pitchers too, I think.
I don't know. They definitely ran out of pitchers. I mean, they began to run out of pitchers. But
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker,
anyway,
Joe Box,
always
and Little Anthony.
Good to hear from Sal the Shoemaker. Ron Cook got your money's worth on that one last night. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, the show is filled with a lot of stuff that is related to, of course, Donald Trump and his navigating the trade routes across Asia, but it's also packed with some things that are related to the government shutdown, which is starting to take its toll. So we'll get to that as well. They practically ran out of innings also. That's right. Went through 18 pitchers total for both teams, says Louis. Wow. Yeah, it was that's what I mean when I say it's history. Like, I kind of wanted a ticket just because it's historic, So there's that. Bill Gates made a statement, says West Theory, and the right is greatly twisting his words, saying that he no longer is for fighting climate change. I didn't see that. Have you been able to corroborate that?
No.
Yeah.
Tony's furiously looking it up right now.
Oh, yeah. And meanwhile, Cecilia says, on the way back from the vet oncologist, listening to your show makes the drive home easier. Wow. Well, Cecilia, misery loves company, and my little Charlie has lymphoma.
Oh.
And we're very bummed about that. I love him very much. Spent a lot of time. Well, listen to the 9 innings of baseball with Charlie on my lap. So it was a real, and he's not a lap cat. That's how I know he's hurting, because he's wanting to be right on me. It's pretty brutal, the process of seeing that. But anyway, I'm feeling you, as the kids used to say. Have you seen the video of Donald Trump wandering around confused in that event in Japan? The Japanese prime minister had to guide him. He had no idea what he was doing.
No, I haven't. We were watching earlier parts of his speech, but we haven't seen him wandering aimlessly.
Wow.
I have it.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Tony is the ninja.
Thanks, Tony.
And he's been able to find it, and we'll share it with you now. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it. Otherwise, we'll describe it to you. So this is the room in which Trump is being welcomed. They're playing the national anthem, obviously. And where's the Donald? He's not there.
The Emperor's Palace?
Sorry, let me find
that?
the other
Yeah,
the
it's
other
okay.
one. I marked it and that it changed. So let me see what I can do.
Teresa Wilson, meantime, says, "Hey, Mark, it's Park's birthday today, 82. And going strong. Can you fit in a happy birthday to him? We are devoted listeners and PayPal donors. You sure are. Thanks, Teresa. Teresa Wilson is a wonderful OG of this show. She and Parks, both big supporters. He is 82 years old, still going strong.
Birthday.
You just
Yeah, happy birthday. Wow.
Woo, you get the
Very,
balloons.
very cool.
Yeah.
Man. Pretty cool, man. 82 seems like a great goal. I'd like to just make it to 82. I'm telling you, it just seems life gets harder and harder. I haven't slept in months. It's just brutal. I don't know. There are all kinds of reasons that are sweet for that, and then there are reasons that are horrible for that. Yes, well, this is the thing that we're going to show you, Jim Shields. Trump also gave a speech where he advocated using steam to power Navy ships.
Yeah, he did. I did
Wow.
see that.
Yeah.
He said, "What's better, electric or steam?"
It was about the catapults, actually.
Oh, he was saying that the catapults, you mean to stop
Because
the,
linear motors sometimes can be problematic.
I see.
And steam just runs off of the nukes,
So he was. I see. He was talking about the nuclear side.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
the aircraft carriers as well. So it's just basically, whatever. It's
Wow.
more about
The
the linear.
science is ridiculous.
All right.
He got a
well.
lot of applause when he said steam, so I will say that.
Well, there's a big crew.
Yeah.
If I'd known that it was that easy to get applause by just saying steam, I mean,
Yeah,
there you
steam,
go.
and they all went crazy. He did also.
I love steam trains, says Gregory. Wow. All right. Who knew there was this big steam push? I didn't realize it. James Bliss with a $10 super sticker. Thank
Big
you.
shout out.
Big shout out to James Bliss. What we love names on this
It's a
show.
great last name.
Great name. James Bliss. Are you kidding me? I love it. Yeah, I saw this. Amazon is laying off a bunch of people. This is a quote, just days after competitor Target announced it was laying off 1,800 corporate roles. This is from teacher Lori G. Yeah, that actually is part of a series of layoffs that are going to affect different sectors of the economy. But Kim will have that in her news a little bit later. Yeah. But the layoffs are massive, and we're talking about tens of thousands of people being laid off. So, all right, without any further delay, thank you for being here. Smash the like button, and we will...
The Mark Thompson Show.
Trump is saying that he's prepared to send more than the National Guard into U.S. cities. That's right. Who really can stop? You begin with the National Guard, and before you know it, you're sending everybody and everyone. And he talked to the troops assembled in Japan, and he said he would escalate his orders to active duty branches of the military if he thinks it's appropriate,
We have the sound. From
here he is, and a little bit of what he was saying.
Drum tight, and it's a beautiful thing. And our people in the service, and people don't care. If we send in our military, if we send in our National Guard, if we send in Space Command, they don't care who the hell it is. They just want to be safe. And we have safe cities now. We're starting in Memphis. And Memphis was a disaster. It's been there. They've been there for 2 weeks, and it's a whole different story. Crime is less than half, and within a month it'll be gone. Getting rid of all the bad ones. And we're going to go into Chicago. We're going to go into our cities. We're going to clean them out. We're going to straighten them out. And we're going to have safe cities because you want to protect safe cities. We're going to have beautiful, safe cities, and it's happening very quickly and very easily, actually. It's easy for us. It's hard for them. And we have to have a little more help. It doesn't matter, really. We can do as we want to do, but it would be nice to have more help from some of the Democrat governors that don't mind. In Chicago, 2 weeks ago, 4 people murdered, 11 people shot. This weekend, it was like terrible, much worse than that. And then we have a governor that stands up and says, oh, it's wonderful. It's not wonderful. And what we're doing is we're going to make it totally safe. It'll be very safe very soon. And we're doing that with all of our cities that are troubled. We have cities that are troubled. We can't have cities that are troubled. And we're sending in our National Guard. And if we need more than the National Guard, we'll send more than the National Guard because we're going to have safe cities. We're not going to have people killed in our cities.
Yeah, he does make the facts up completely, as you know. But he tips his hand, of course, you know. The reality is he's right. He can do whatever he wants. And you can see him doing whatever he wants in so many different ways. He can send troops into American cities. He does it, I don't think it's a fight against crime at all. I mean, they don't even go into the crime-ridden parts of the cities that they are occupying. They make a move because they want to get us accustomed to the fact that he can send these troops in. I mean, this is really like a break the glass, pull the lever so the alarm goes off thing that a president can do in times of like civil war crisis or in times of an American city really melting down. See Los Angeles after the Rodney King verdicts and the riots that followed. See the American cities that were on fire from Detroit on in the 60s, you know, as a result of civil rights protests. So these are times when you needed some reinforcements. I mean, this is a performative flex on the part of this administration to get you used to it because I think ultimately the end game is that they're messing with the election. They're messing with turnout. And that's a whole series of topics that we will explore in the next few weeks. But the reality is that part of this is the occupation of various parts of the country by troops that are then, they're under orders from the president. And the last thing I'll say, just because I mentioned troops, is that this whole thing we told you yesterday about this donor who came through, this billionaire donor who is very MAGA, very right-wing. He is supposedly paying the military during this government shutdown. What was the number? 170 million. I mean, that sounds like a lot of money because it is a lot of money, but it's not enough to pay the military. I mean, the military, if you pencil that out, is like $90 a person. But what it does, and this is the important thing you should take away from it, is it does set the table for a private army. I mean, in other words, a rich guy comes in, he pays a bunch of these military people because the government is shut down, they no longer get their checks. That looks like sort of an angel making a support move to the U.S. government when it really is creating a situation in which you can have private industry supporting a private army, and that private army isn't even bound necessarily by the laws and strictures associated with the Constitution, et cetera. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that as the water gets muddied, these are the sorts of things you have to keep your eye on. So that was Trump talking about the fact that he, he's cleaned up things in short order. He did meet with Prime Minister Sane Takaichi. Is that how he says it, Kim?
That's how I would say it, Mark.
He is trying to get to some kind of, they had a deal in place. This is the story with the Japanese. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but and then the Japanese had to agree to this investment. And the way the deal is laid out, I was reading about it, the Americans are making them invest 650. I have the numbers. In fact, I might even have them close by, but not important. It's a chunk of money in America, but there is no stipulation as to how that money is spent. So it's the oddest kind of deal because even the Japanese are going, we're not even sure that this money is going to be used in ways that actually benefit us as Japanese investors in America. It's kind of like a shakedown.
Are they investing in the ballroom?
I mean, the money can be used for any number
Wow.
of things. Yeah. anyway, that's the Japanese part of it. And
Yeah.
now he's, obviously the China deal is a centerpiece of what's going on.
The Japanese deal involves the rare earth minerals, right?
Right. The Japanese deal, is that what you said?
Yeah. Mhm.
No, the Chinese deal involves the rare earth minerals.
Not the Japanese one.
There
did
might
too.
be
I don't know.
an aspect of the
Yeah.
Japanese deal that is similarly. You can set us straight on that, Kim. You have all the powers of the
Google it.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Google and speaking of things that you look up, there is an Elon Musk alternative to Wikipedia because Wikipedia is woke, says Elon Musk. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Down with woke.
Yeah. This is Grokpedia. It's an alternative to woke Wikipedia. And Grokpedia is a creation of Musk's AI chatbot, Grok. Human volunteers write and edit articles for a Wikipedia, but here you've got AI handling the whole thing. Artificial intelligence designed to be closer to conservative political views. They will be populating the Grokpedia. Musk announcing that he is working on an alternative to Wikipedia after a suggestion from David Sachs, a friend and fellow tech investor who's the Trump administration's AI and crypto czar. Musk has decided the project in political terms is the best way to profile it to the American people. So Wikipedia is woke, and Grokpedia is sort of the answer to woke. So if you don't like the New York Times and NPR as sources of articles, that's what he specifically calls out, you'll like Grokpedia. It's a new way to understand the universe. It differs from Wikipedia in at least one major respect. There are no clear human authors. Volunteers write and edit Wikipedia, often anonymously, but Grokpedia has its articles fact-checked by Grok. All right. So visitors to Grokpedia can't make edits. You can make edits on Wikipedia. You can suggest edits from a pop-up, but that's the best you can do. But some Grokpedia entries, they say, are at least initially now based on Wikipedia. So there is a kind of, it's the internet. It's the Wild West, right? But anyway, Grokpedia is the new Wikipedia, but it's anti-woke.
So I wonder what happens if you typed in DEI on Grokpedia. On Wikipedia, it would probably say, diversity, equity, inclusion. On Grokpedia, does it have bad things to say?
That's a great question. I mean, you're right. It could be, and you could say DEI is
If you type in institutional racism,
yeah,
what happens
right, exactly.
on Grokpedia?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The erroneously framed view of liberal media that they're, exactly. You can.
The only reason I'm here is because you are a friend.
That's it. That's our Elon. So I told you, I used to play cards with David Sachs. He used to play cards with him all the time. Now he's like this. I don't know. He's kind of a villainous character, I think, in all of this. But Grokpedia is the new AI move from Elon, again, completely populated by AI facts, I should say, but by AI initiated by human volunteers. Did you find out the answer to the Japanese rare earth mineral question?
I didn't look it up because I knew I was right, but I will say that I did get a pronouncer for Mr. Powar.
Well, Mr. Powar's here, so we can just ask Mr. Powar how he says his name.
But I got the pronouncer, so you didn't have to ask.
You didn't look up the rare earth thing? Why not, Kim?
Because I already knew I was right about it, and I thought we moved on.
Why are you yelling?
Well, why can't you just... Tony, look it up, please.
Jesus.
All right. I'm sorry, Mr. Powar, that you have to hear this. It's not a happy time when mommy and daddy fight.
From Reuters, U.S.-Japan leaders sign rare earths nuclear power deal ahead of Trump's Xi meeting.
Was that so hard, Kim? There you
But
go.
I didn't have to look it up because I already knew it.
Yeah,
But I'm trying to
but
tell
you
you.
have to prove it once it's been questioned. Just like, have you played Scrabble before, Kim?
It's my favorite game.
Okay, well then you know that there's a challenge in Scrabble, right? Even though you know that it is a word, that there
You were
is a word
challenging
there.
me?
So I was challenging. I was saying
It's the Mark
I'm not
Thompson
sure.
challenge throwdown? Is
It
that
wasn't
what
a
that was?
challenge per se. It was a simple query.
So if I
But
was,
you, of course, turned it
if
into a
I'm-
big family dispute, and
if
I don't
I'm-
know why.
I'm
I blame
right,
you.
All right, Kim, settle
then
down,
do I
please.
win? Did I win the challenge? Is that what happened?
I've got Rahul here, and I'm pretty sure that's how he says his first name. But I'm going to be anxious to
No,
know.
it's Rahul.
Rahul. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Do you want to check?
Rahul
You want to check that?
Powar.
Google it.
I mean, I think.
I asked for a pronouncer, asked and answered.
Well, you
again,
asked.
I
you
win the
asked,
challenge.
This is 40 seconds before the guy comes on. You asked.
That's
You should
right,
have asked
I
that
did.
3 days ago.
Yes, but yet I asked.
So, what is his actual pronunciation, please?
Rahul Powar.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Everybody, when he gets here, just pretend we already knew, even though he's hearing this entire conversation, but it'll just play better for the video. So, all right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you for being here. Please smash the like button like a boss. Hit it hard. Hit it now. It costs
with
you
your
nothing.
iron rod.
I don't know why you'd hit the like button so far, but I do appreciate you hitting the thumbs up. It's great to have you here and as a part of this conversation. David Cay Johnston in hour 2. The Pulitzer Prize winner will weigh in on a number of things that are going on. But now it's time to talk about AI. This guy is an AI risk expert and entrepreneur. He served as the head of advanced products and innovation at Thomson Reuters. He's also part of the founding team and principal technical architect of Shazam, creating its original iPhone app. Tony, you're going to love this guy. Please, a warm Mark Thompson Show welcome for Rahul Powar. Rahul, how do you actually say your name?
Kim got it right. It is Rahul Powar.
Okay, wow.
Very good.
Rahul, I know you're new to the show, but please try to avoid saying Kim got it right, if you could, just in the future. I had this story about Grokopedia, a creation. It's really of the moment. It's the answer to Wikipedia that's been created by Elon Musk. It's a weird place to start in this conversation, but just because it is sort of the story of the day, just out of that world of Elon Musk and AI. So this is a Wikipedia completely populated by facts that are generated and checked by AI. Your thoughts on that, and then, if you will, contextualize this in this world of AI and the growing dependence on AI, and essentially the on that platform anyway, the total takeover of AI.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everywhere we turn, we see AI in some shape or form. I think specifically Grokopedia, I don't have strong thoughts about that. I don't think it's going to be particularly impactful, because you can think of AI as a sort of way in which to kind of compress all of human knowledge into like a machine. And that machine is today mostly a brain in the box. So you give it some inputs and it's going to throw some outputs back out at you. To think that, Grok, as much as, I like that particular AI model personally, the fact that it could actually condense all of human knowledge into its brain and then spit it back out on the internet, effectively as a Wikipedia clone, and have it be sort of better or more effective, irrespective of all the political ideology that's sort of it's plastered around it. I don't think that's really going to be a sort of viable step for the future of human interaction with machines, which is what I care about, right? So
Sure.
I think it's very marketable given the climate at the moment. But I try not to pay too much attention to those sorts of things.
The world of AI, as you've interacted, you've really tried to, as you say, frame AI and, if you will, even handle AI, that is to say, control AI within the framework, the broader framework of human interaction. Like, where does AI fit into our existing culture, society, politics, etc.? Speak to that and some of the things that you've actually created some inroads in these areas.
Yeah, so that's probably a very long conversation, but I think at a high level, what I get excited about is when machines have some sort of positive impact on the human experience. And people often wonder, as they think about all the things that I worked on, kind of how the Shazam guy ended up in what I do today, which is really a cybersecurity company. And the journey is actually pretty straightforward in my mind, because I'm always excited about the idea of technology having some sort of really positive impact on people. And it's great that, when I talk to people about Shazam, it makes them smile. It was a piece of technology that probably had a pretty positive impact on them in some way or form. And as I got older,
for a second, Rahul, because now I have to follow up, and then we'll get back. But every good conversation, I think, is built of a couple of digressions along the way. So here we digress to Shazam. Shazam is both, and it does make you smile, brilliant, and also it seems as though it's an overwhelming type of technology. Like, how does that technology work to know all of these different things that it has to know from various pieces of music that span all the different genres of music? It's a remarkable thing. Give us quickly a moment on that Shazam creation. Now, I know you were taking the Shazam technology and making it the app on the phone, but that's the whole game.
Yeah, I worked on many bits of that, but if you think back, what it's trying to do, it's trying to take many lifetimes worth of music, which, we as individuals could probably never listen to, and trying to find in that 10, 15-second snippet of song that's out there. The algorithm was invented by a gentleman who's actually still in the Bay Area, I believe, Avery Wang, and it's a really sort of brilliant piece of technology. And it's not AI, and it's actually very old at this point in time. I think I probably saw the first prototype maybe back in 2000, which is going to be 25 years ago, which is pretty crazy to me. But turning that into something that has had such a big impact on people's lives has been a great part of the journey. And I think when I look back on it now versus the kind of technology that we have and are kind of acclimatized to, it's a totally different generation of technology. But what's cool about it is it made people smile. And in many ways, we're getting to the point where with AI, as we use it and know it today, it knows about us and speaks our language in a manner that machines could never do in the past. So, I had the advantage of trying ChatGPT out. Maybe it was 2020 or something. The Playground, it was a super private beta. And I fired up this thing and I looked at it, it's like, what is this machine? And then when I tried it for the first time, I was totally blown away. I never thought I would see that kind of human-machine interaction in my lifetime. So it completely changed what I believe machines could do today. And now we're seeing the sort of full impact of that, all the way from, Grok AI at one extreme, to the way people use ChatGPT for all sorts of things that, we never thought we'd talk to machines about. So it's a pretty amazing thing to witness over these 20-something years to see where machines have taken us.
You've just hit on something, though, that I think is the whole game, which is the way you just mentioned, the way I was able to interact with the machine, or the way the machine interacted with me. There is it's illusory, I'm sure, on some level, but it's really effective, a way in which the machine does seem to know you. Mm-hmm. Like if I asked, for our next interview, what do you think I should ask Rahul about? And it will even say, well, based on your first interview, Mark, I think you've left out the following, blah, 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 blah. So it's an odd, almost relationship it's built in a very simple way.
Yeah, no, it's not more complicated than kind of speaking our language, right? I think it's amazing when we think about it, because we've been so used to machines being machines and human beings being human beings. When you start to interact with them in the way that you interact with the fellow human beings, the lines get super blurry. Obviously, we've seen a lot about the way people use and misuse AI today. It's ultimately it's some of what we do. We've obviously seen people using AI to try and generate fake content or impersonate brands or those sorts of things out in the internet, which is the dangerous use cases of AI. It allows bad actors to basically take AI and turn it into a machine that industrializes this kind of human scale interaction for nefarious purposes. And that's actually one of the reasons why I got into cybersecurity to begin with. It was a question of, hey, I think technology is going to be super powerful, but it's also there are going to be some really difficult challenges for us generally to try and keep the technology and services that we interact with safe. And I think this is actually quite magical when they can listen to us. And I think talking in ChatGPT and text is like one thing, but we can clearly see cases where it can see like us and it can hear like us, which I think starts to open up a whole bunch of these multimodal kind of interactions, which makes it feel kind of magical. And I think you hit on the point of, maybe it's just a simulation of intelligence. I think the jury's out on, genuinely whether they do think and whether they're just pretending to be us, whether they can be creative, whether they can't be. I think for the general population, that doesn't really matter. If it's something that adds value to the sorts of thing that they're trying to do, if it's helpful to them in some way, it's probably good enough to be an extremely useful tool.
That's such a great point. There's a almost esoteric conversation going on about is awareness, machine awareness. Might it actually, turn off humanity while it, saves itself? And I've seen and read compelling arguments for these various ways in which it is capable of doing that. That is to say, turning off humanity and kind of creating a machine world. But then as I read more, at least in one piece I remember, it seemed as though the developers were guiding it that way. And it seemed as though it was being nudged a bit. And so its desire for self-preservation, if you will, was kind of being programmed in. Can you speak to that for a second, that the kind of the esoteric sense of being that these creatures may have, these mechanical creatures?
Yeah, well, I think the reason why there's so much discussion about this, because it's reasonable to say we currently don't really know how they work. I think we're sort of sitting in a world where they're unreasonably effective, but we don't quite fully understand why. So there's a lot of papers, a lot of speculation around the quest for, are they truly quote unquote intelligent, and what are their limits, and so on and so forth. And clearly we can see what some of the limits are. I would note, I think most of the models that consumers have access to are very suggestible. So they clearly, if you set them off on a path, they will run around underneath their completion engines. So if you set them off on a path, they're just going to try and do what you set them out to do. I think it's clearly they don't have a lot of agency as it currently stands. So if you kind of set it up in a way that makes it suggest that they are in trouble or they're at risk and so on, then clearly where you look at the internal monologue, there'll be some stuff in there that sort of feels a bit Skynet-ish, I guess. But I think the reality is right now they're fairly useful machines, and even if progress on Gen AI and large language models stops today, which clearly it's not, given the trillions of dollars that's really in the ecosystem. But even if it were to stop today, the amount of utility these tools have for us that we're still not fully utilizing is, in my mind at least, a decade or two worth of innovation to be deployed in the world.
When you see the Palantir data set that is associated with tracking Americans and tracking terrorists and tracking drug runners and tracking fill in the blank, the good and the bad, and that's just one example, but Palantir's a really, I think, good example. It seems to me like the clear and present danger of AI in the wrong hands, if you will, really begins to be a narrative that's a reality.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some data recently that I don't think as a species we've ever invested in something quite as much as we're investing in AI right now, and I think that's entirely reasonable. So whether you look at the public markets and say there's a bubble or not, I think that's an entirely separate issue. I think the impact of the technology we've built today is certainly going to last my lifetime in terms of how that reverberates across all of these principles. And so clearly there's an arms race building. There's different geopolitical powers at play. The supply chains are super intricate and usually very concentrated, famously. So there's different geopolitical powers are basically trying to control the AI. The one thing that they're trying to do is sort of be in pole position for this alleged singularity, the moment where AI tries to and can improve itself, because clearly whoever gets there first has an AI that can improve itself, which means that no one else can catch up, right? In principle. So people are spending an enormous amount of energy getting there. Personally, I'm not sure that that's actually going to happen with the technology that we have. It's not super clear that just making everything bigger and using more memory, using more power, using more NVIDIA chips is actually going to create this sort of like beyond human intelligence, though I could be wrong. I think, to some ways, China's not chasing that. China's chasing actually something that's quite a bit more prosaic. They're just trying to take the stuff that they have and make it useful. It's not as exciting as like, hey, we're going to have like a super intelligent AI sitting in a data center somewhere, but it does actually create, quite a bit of economic value for their billions of people that they have. So it's a very different philosophy, and I think it's kind of interesting to see how all of this will plan out.
That's a fascinating distinction, really fascinating distinction. I want to ask you about something that's happening right now, a couple of things actually, but I'll start with the government shutdown. There are massive flight delays. I mean, there was 7,000 yesterday, and you've actually done some work in this area, and I'm just wondering the nexus of technology and the in this case the human problem, which is created by humans, the shutdown of the government, and the fact that there are fewer and fewer people staffing these various critical positions, and the obviously life and death world of air traffic control. Can you speak to that, the nexus of the technology and that?
Yeah, well, so this is a good example of us building an entire sort of system of systems that run our world. And, in many cases, we don't really fully realize just how much we rely on them till they stop working for us, right? And, I think that's one of the challenges that we're going to have. Government shutdown notwithstanding, I'm expecting, that's going to come to pass at some point in time. But in a similar way, we're building all of these systems on the back of these technologies, and we're having these debates of, how many people do we need? How much is AI going to sort of automate these jobs away? What can it do? What can it not do, et cetera? And we're very much at the early stage of this. So we're all kind of trying to find our way. Governments, private companies, public companies, us as individuals, just trying to figure out how all these tools fit into our world. Like I said before, I fully expect in like 5 or 6 years' time, we'll look back at this period and say, oh, wow, there was just so much stuff we did back then that we just don't do anymore. And hopefully, I'm optimistic. I brand myself as sort of optimistic technologist. I think we'll work through some of that. I think we'll come out to a world where, AI is probably going to be more helpful and more impactful in our lives simply by taking a lot of the drudgery away. The things that, we shouldn't be doing as people, but maybe we've gotten accustomed to. If we can take some of that away, we can spend more of our time on engaging with other human beings.
Well, specifically in the case of air traffic controllers, might that be something that AI could completely take off the plate of humans?
I would imagine at some point in time, once we have a better understanding of how these systems work, where their strengths and weaknesses lie, especially as we get to these very sort of safety conscious industries. I think I'm happy that it takes longer for technology to get there than, in some other realms, like, creating ad copy. Great. Creating marketing videos, fine. The cost of failure is relatively low. When you're starting to go into medical technology, highly regulated businesses, sectors that are so critical to the safety of, hundreds and thousands of people, you want to move slow and don't break things.
Sure, because AI does make mistakes, right? I mean, it's sort of baked in that it's going to make mistakes.
Yeah, we're still very much learning how to control it. And there are a bunch of techniques, and people are getting better at it. The people who actually do this on foundational research are spending a lot of their time and energy in trying to look inside the brain. I mean, you can think of ourselves, right? After knowing ourselves for, I guess, at least tens of thousands of years, we still don't really understand how we work, right? And AI is not that different. We've built, basically a replica of the way our brains kind of work in a simplified manner, and unsurprisingly, we can't figure it out. So I think it'll take a little while before we can be confident about it.
But, you touched on something that I just think it's so simple and yet so critical, and that is it's the language, the way in which this technology relates to us that on the consumer level vaults it into this sort of revolutionary status. But the rest of the stuff, the medical, the legal, the aviation-related aspects of applications of AI, that becomes a much more tricky game to provide litmus tests for and to really evaluate, because you can't afford to have a margin of error of any substantial statistic, right? I mean, it has to be, less than 1% type thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's actually more difficult in some ways and easier in others, because in some ways it's easier because it's testable. Quite often, if you're talking about things like diagnosis, if you're talking about things like assessments, you could actually build a data set to say, hey, this is good, this is bad. It's more difficult to do that when you're just talking about general human interaction, right? If you're just chatting with it and it's, giving you, I don't know, relationship advice. I'm happily married, so you don't have to worry about that anymore, but I know a lot of people use it for that sort of thing.
Sure.
It's more difficult to build a testable hypothesis to say that it's doing the right thing. Now, obviously, there's safety testing and guardrails and all that. I know all the major model makers spend a lot of time and effort on, but in some other use cases, it can be simpler. It can be more yes binary. Yes, it's good. No, it's not. However, that being said, in order to actually make sure that it's good, and I found that as human beings, we have a higher standard of excellence for machines than we do for ourselves. So, if we talk about, when the machine can't make a mistake, but you'll forgive a human being, right? And I think that's definitely true for AI models too. So we need them to be, significantly more reliable than our best people, especially in these very, very high stakes, safety critical aspects, before we can really hand over the keys to them.
I have one story that just jumped out at us I wanted to share with you. In March, 3 months after being forced out of his position as the CEO of Intel and sued by shareholders, Patrick Gelsinger took the reins at Glue, which is a technology company made for what he calls the faith ecosystem. It's like Salesforce for churches, plus chatbots and AI assistants for automating pastoral work and ministry support. So this is a pivot to technology associated with spreading the word, And it's interesting to me to see AI used, and you can imagine there's quite a bit of money behind this, and there are 140,000 faith, ministry, and nonprofit leaders who are now being targeted for this kind of AI technology that will interact with them. It's sort of Silicon Valley comes to the pews of the churches, and it was, to me, just a sign of the times, and I wanted to get your comment.
Yeah, so this was fun because I ran across this for the first time last week. A colleague of mine who I think lives right next to them sent me the "Have you seen this?" And I was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." I mean, it's interesting that now that AI is really everywhere, right? Because it's not really just a thing that happens in the Bay Area. Everyone wants a piece of the action. Everyone wants to interact with it on their own terms. And I think building a foundational model that's kind of faith-based, or at least is tuned to the interactions that the Christians across the states really would get value from, is interesting to see. I mean, I can't think of many other technologies apart from maybe dating that would have had sort of this kind of like segmentation quite so clearly. And I think we tried it, and it's quite cool. I mean, it's I'm not a very religious person myself, but I think
not yet. Give yourself a couple of months with the AI.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, we asked some questions on the sort of boundary of science and religion, and I gave some pretty balanced answers. I was actually quite impressed.
Oh, that's really great. Well, you're just a great ambassador for all of this. I mean, I must tell you, AI in the world of journalism has been an embattled technology. There's a lot of plagiarism. There's a lot of rip-off of really hard work that's being done by investigative journalists and those who are brilliant writers, et cetera. So, AI has picked up some black eyes in that area, and that's an area in which I, know a lot of people and interact. But I also see the virtues and the wonder of it. So I'm hoping that it can navigate some of that stuff, the negative stuff, to get to what you talk about, which is the great potential.
Yeah, no, I mean, clearly it's trained on the best examples of what humans can offer, right? And so clearly, well-written pieces, books, et cetera, et cetera. If that's not in the training data, then it's really not going to be a very good model. There was actually quite an interesting article posted recently about AI that was heavily trained on, just social media content. And they found that it actually got significantly and measurably worse at reasoning, which is quite funny, and I think it probably reflects maybe some of the brain rot we have as individuals, sort of being online every day. But it was interesting to see that sort of expressed statistically in the way the model got worse. And what was interesting is they couldn't make the model better by training it with sort of good content anymore. So there's some really interesting things out there. Clearly, it needs good examples of the best of what we as humans can offer, so that it can really be the best of what it can offer. But at the same time, there's great work out there that is either copyright or either the intellectual property of important people across the world, and we kind of, at some level, we need that to make these models effective. But at the same time, it shouldn't just be a free-for-all. So, I think this is just part of the entire, frankly, it's an international problem, just legislative framework that we're going to have to work through.
Sure, it's really a new technology, and I think that the regulatory instruments aren't there necessarily yet. And, I think of, in our last minute or so, I think of the ASCAP BMI licensing overall fees that are paid by radio stations. Let's say they're playing music, and, there's just an understanding that we're going to use this music, but we're going to pay this annual fee. And I think at least at a minimum, there should be something like that to compensate all these many people. I just don't know how that arithmetic works out, since you're talking about what is, qualifiedly like almost an infinite number of things written and right. I mean, I don't know how you work out you pencil that out. It's got to be a pretty big number.
Yeah, no, it's frankly, this is a really difficult problem. I mean, performance rights stuff. I mean, I have some knowledge of that, having worked on a very similar problem back at Shazam for specifically some of the companies mentioned. So I understand how that works. I think if you look at the entirety of the music business, and specifically that's right spots, it's such a tiny slice of what we're talking about now. And its sort of utility, humanity is, so proportionally different. I think it's quite difficult to say, well, there's everything out there. How do we isolate the value of a particular, currently copyrighted piece of work in this massive body of everything that humans have ever produced and put some economic value to it? I really don't know that we have a process of doing that. But we're going to have to figure something out.
Right. We don't have it, and that's the problem. But I'm excited for our next conversation, and we've just finished our first conversation. I hope you'll come back. Rahul, is there anything that we can link to if people want to follow up with you and any of the existing technologies and efforts that you have underway?
Yeah, so at Redshift, we're mainly focused on using a lot of these technologies to try and help our customers, who are usually brands, be secure online. So effectively stop them from being impersonated, to their customer base, to their supply chain, to their investors, whoever that might be, because there's a lot of that going on. And AI is basically industrializing the process in which this works. So we try and harness some of that AI capability for good. Let's put it in the hands of the good guys, try and monitor the internet at scale and harden their public face so that it can't really be so easily impersonated by people. And if there's anyone listening who found, maybe he's experienced some of this, or, kind of is interested in the kind of solutions that might be available to protect their business, then redshift.com has a bunch of SaaS solutions for you.
Redshift.com. We've had it in the chat. We have it on screen, and I'll have it under this video with a hot link to it if you want to check out more. And I look forward to Rahul Powar, our next conversation. As I say, really a cool, interesting guy, and you've got some great takes. And I love your sense of optimism, because we don't get a lot of that. So really great stuff. Thanks for stopping through, Rahul.
Very happy to be on.
Rahul Powar. See you, Rahul. Rahul Powar. Wow. Loved it. And Kim came up with the pronouncer just in time, even though I probably was only, I was 80% there, maybe 70% there.
You were looking good.
A lot of good love for Rahul in the chat. Rahul, if you want to feel good about yourself, go back and watch the feed, and you can read about how great you are. The audience really embraced you. I'd say the audience has embraced Rahul more than they've embraced me, which is a
What?
I know it's disturbing, but look, the reality is the reality. So, oh, David Cay Johnston is here. I was killing time.
Yeah.
I'm so
No,
sorry.
He's here.
Wow. Anyway, well, thank you. Smash the like button for Rahul. That was the tech part of our show to talk a little bit of technology and AI, also some politics in there. So if you missed any of it, go back and check it out. We'll drop it as a separate video as well. Yeah. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
this guy is a Pulitzer Prize winning investigative reporter. He's written books on Donald Trump that detail the rise of Donald Trump, the way Donald Trump has done business. Also books on how the richest Americans have benefited from the tax code and legal system as it's set up in this country. Of course, all of that has been supercharged under what is a completely, in my judgment, corrupt administration on a level we've never seen before. He is the co-founder of DCReport.org and now professor at Rochester Institute of Technology, the great David Cay Johnston.
Hello, Mark. Good to be with you.
Hello, sir. All right. So much to touch on. The government continues closed, and it serves, it seems, those in the highest levels of government well to keep the government closed. How do you game this out?
I got to tell you, I don't know. I mean, I expect this will become the longest shutdown ever. The longest currently is Donald Trump, and right now it's the second longest. I did think today, as I was listening to something coming from one of Donald Trump's targets, that they may be up to something interesting about SNAP benefits, a supplemental nutrition assistance program, what we used to call food stamps, to address hunger, which is just another word for poverty. Donald has not provided $1 of federal emergency management aid for the fires in Los Angeles. I wonder if they're going to decide to reach into the nearly $6 billion reserve fund for SNAP and provide benefits for poor people to eat in red states, but not in blue.
Wow.
That would be so blatantly discriminatory. I can't imagine very many federal judges would go along with that, but it will be interesting to see. Well, if you're poor in a blue state, you can starve, and if you're in a red state, you're going to get your food assistance. It is the kind of thing I can see this administration absolutely doing.
There's a sense in that way that this administration can do whatever they want to do. You could see it in the flex associated with the military, but you can see it in the sacking of the Treasury for $230 million that never really has to be adjudicated in any formal way. Trump just says, I am the aggrieved party here. I was harassed by this legal system. I go to my DOJ, Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, my former attorney, and then I have to sign off on it. Well, I think it's a righteous payout, and now I want $230 million. That is the most bald-faced, corrupt notion of power, though, to speak to what we're talking about. I can do whatever I want, that I have seen.
Well, as Mel Brooks, playing the French king, says in his History of the World, it's good to be king.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, who's going to challenge him? I mean, the Justice Department is completely under his control. The Supreme Court majority is in his pocket. I just got off a local public radio here in Rochester, and there was a caller who was very upset because I had said that we have a Supreme Court majority that consists of 5 white supremacists and someone who I don't think is frankly qualified to be a traffic court judge. And the person was very upset, saying, you know, there's no evidence that they're white supremacists, and that's just ridiculous. And I said, you know what Chief Justice Roberts' first job was out of law school? He was hired by the Justice Department and the Reagan administration to suppress black votes. And this isn't news. This was widely reported at the time. You can go read about it. There are books that talk about it. There are law review articles. I mean, it's robustly established. And if you take a job of the government to suppress the votes of black people, I think it's more than reasonable to call you a white supremacist.
What then, with this concierge court that you've described, that seems to be on the same page?
That's a great phrase.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's
concierge court. I love that.
That's what he's expecting, right? He can bump everything up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court never really lets him down. You know, I wonder then, a couple of things. On a grand scale, I wonder what is in our future in terms of elections. We talk about getting out for the midterms. We talk about the general. It strikes me, and more revelations about how he had pressured Pence to not, you just saw that in the last day, that Pence had contemporaneous notes associated with conversations with Trump saying, you're a wimp if you approve this election. You can't certify this election. You realize that he has no interest in there being free and fair elections in America any longer. Right. And so this is all of a kind. I become more downcast about the future every day, despite the fact that there's a big pushback. We saw it in the streets with no kings, et cetera. I mean, there's definitely there's a popular rise against Donald Trump right now.
There is, and you're seeing some of his closest supporters, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, distance themselves from Trump. I'd point out that in her congressional district, more than 40% of the residents are on Medicaid. So she has a rather powerful incentive here to separate from Trump. But, if you have lemons, make lemonade guy, even though I don't particularly like lemonade because I don't like sugary drinks, I never have. The Trump administration's demand that red states redraw the congressional boundaries to favor Republicans, and more importantly, to make sure that Black Democrats cannot get elected, I don't buy the argument of gloom and doom about this. I see in that an enormous opportunity to weaken Donald Trump. It does require the one thing that we're sort of not used to doing in the age of the internet, and that's actual work in political fields. But there are districts in Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, North Carolina, the Confederacy states, that right now are 55% or more Republican. And so you can reasonably expect that Republicans will get reelected. But if you want to gerrymander Black Democrats out, you're going to have to dilute those districts. And now you're going to have a bunch of districts that are going to be 51, 52% Republican. Well, if Democrats, independents, and disaffected Republicans get together and turn out the vote, can win Congress back with a big, fat margin. Instead of thinking about, well, we'll get a 3-vote majority for the Democrats, you could end up with a 20, 30, 40 vote majority. But, we need to remember that you have to do the work. My law class today, I was explaining to them something about the history of corporate law, and I pointed out that the Boston Tea Party, one of about 30 Tea Parties, was not, as we're all taught in school, about high taxes. It was about a tax exemption and a favor for the friends of King George. And it involved imposing a monopoly. You could only drink British tea when 3 out of 4 cups of tea being drunk at the time on the East Coast were, or at least in Boston, were Dutch tea because it was better. And the people who gathered at Faneuil Hall on the day of the most famous Tea Party in Boston Harbor, it was December, middle of December. It's cold. It's raining. The hall was packed. And there were several thousand people who stood outside in the rain for 12 hours as the crowd was worked up to go and break open the chests of tea and throw the tea into the harbor. Getting people to register to vote, making sure they stay registered, and then getting them to the polls on election day, even if that means you volunteer with someone else, you need 2 people to drive people to the polls, isn't that much work. But if people aren't willing to do the work, then they're going to lose their democracy. And we need to instill in that, TV ads move the needle almost nowhere. 0.3% is what I've read in the literature of the political scientists. You want to replace Donald Trump, encourage the redistricting. Yes, some of the Black lawmakers may not be reelectable. That doesn't mean that Democrats or anti-Trump Republican or an independent can't win the race. Pick smart candidates who can resonate with the voters. And then in the saying from the LA Times newsroom, starting with the Watergate era, Goya Cod, get off your ass, knock on doors, do the work, Do the work. You want to live in a free country, you got to do the work. And I know I'm a broken record about this, but more than 1 million people died for this country. So suggesting you should arrange to take Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of the first Tuesday in November next year off to help with an election, that's not a sacrifice of any consequence. And if you do it right, you'll have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, there is a sense of community about those things that you're talking about. I wanted to, because you are talking about elections, to mention that the feds, and I hate to always seem to default to what's going on, but I just feel that there's really an aggressive move. You talked about the gerrymander, and I love that you pointed out I think there's even a term for it, when you gerrymander yourself to the point that you screw yourself by the gerrymandering, because it's dumbmandering, I think is what it's called. But anyway,
yes.
So I love that you touched on that. And in California, there's this Prop 50 where there is essentially a referendum on whether there should be a redrawing and redistricting. And that is leading in the polls. But the feds, this is my point, are sending now election observers to California. Pam Bondi is sending members of her team from the Justice Department who will monitor polls in 6 jurisdictions leading up to this November 4th election. And now you've got the Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta, saying that the state will dispatch its own observers to monitor the federal election observers, because there is a sense, and I think you're going to see a lot of this in the elections to come, of leaning on the polling places and leaning on voters in America from the feds, from those in power.
And this is not a new thing. Up until, I think it was 20 years ago, the Republican Party was under a national order that they could not do certain things they had been doing. I think it was a national order. It's possible it was only in New Jersey. They couldn't call up black voters the day before the election saying, you show up at the polls, we're going to arrest you. I'm from the police department and we've got an arrest warrant for you. And other just outrageous efforts to deter the turnout for the vote. Pam Bondi has exactly zero evidence that there's anything rigged or improper going on in California elections. Bonta has to make a decision about whether he wants to go into federal court at some point, probably later rather than sooner, and seek an order saying, no, federal monitors will not be around the polling places because they're inherently intimidating. I will be surprised if the Attorney General of California doesn't seek at least an order that there are to be no masked ICE agents or other federal agents anywhere near polling places, because that would be an effective way to turn people away and make them afraid. Stopping cars, demanding you identify yourself, where were you born, stuff like that. But look, the Trump administration is very clear. They aren't willing to win in a fair and fair election. They know that in a free and fair election, especially as Donald's numbers are now at least 10 points below his votes in last fall, that he's in trouble. He's in deep trouble. And elections under the Constitution are run by the states unless Congress passes a law to the contrary, taking control of those. If Trump tries to get a quickie law passed to bring federal supervision of all elections, it'll be very interesting to see if any of the Republicans suddenly find their spines and say no.
I mean, this is a really provocative question, David Cay Johnston. I think they've really slept on everything. I mean, the tariff thing, which threatened the U.S. economy, and so it threatens them by extension, because, you'll pay a political price if the economy gets turned on its side. This tariff thing, they kind of just sat on their hands, let the president do this. The sending of National Guard troops and legit military, Marines in L.A., and now he's talking in Japan. We ran the clip before. Maybe we'll run it again in a moment. Where he's saying, I don't want to limit it to the National Guard. I want to actually send in regular troops to various cities to restore order. Still, you get no congressional pushback. So the idea somehow that they might actually pass under Trumpian pressure the kind of legislation you're talking about, which would give the feds control of the elections.
Yeah, they might. That is a distinct possibility, and that's why I said it'd be interesting to see if a few of the Republicans who claim to be serious constitutionalists stand up. We just saw a congressman today say that some of what Trump's doing is outside of the Constitution. So there's some minor cracks in Donald's demands for absolute obedience by members of Congress, but they're minor. And Speaker Johnson is so completely obedient that there's no work being done in the House. This just hasn't happened before with no work being done in the House. And of course, the reason is that if the House comes back in, he will be obliged to swear in the new Democrat from Arizona, and she will be the 218th vote on a discharge position to get the Epstein files. And, you know, Occam's razor. Why is Donald Trump and his administration working so hard to keep secret the files he promised to bring them out? I had people today and on another show elsewhere, you know, all of conspiracy theories about this. And the Biden administration knows there's nothing there because they didn't go after Trump over this. The simple answer is because it's damaging to Donald Trump. That's why they're not releasing it. There's no other reason. And they have, to be clear, those people who don't know the law, the Trump administration has absolute authority to release the Epstein files, redacted or unredacted. A whole lot of law professors, former prosecutors, former civil attorneys for the federal government have all said exactly what I just said. They have total discretion to do this. So they're choosing not to do it. Why?
Exactly. If there's nothing damning about it, then why wouldn't you release it? I mean, his name is all over any file concerning Jeffrey Epstein like a bad smell because he was a best friend of Jeffrey Epstein. I mean,
well, and if you're thinking, well, there are other people, we shouldn't bring in these other folks who are in there. Okay, I don't like that idea, but I'll tell you what, redact every single name in there except Donald Trump's.
I think it's going to work the other way, David Cay Johnston.
I think you're right about that.
I think they're dry cleaning for Donald Trump's name. I play a little bit, if you would, Tony. The president now making it seems to me like what he's really trying to do, David, with these trade deals, is he's just trying to make everything go back to the way it was. It's like what you and I talked about months ago. If he just hadn't touched anything, he would have been fine. Instead, he has these reflexive moments of impulse where he just imposes these ridiculous tariffs. So he's meeting with the Japanese and the Chinese, just trying to get back to good.
On tariffs, he has no legal authority to impose. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 of our Constitution, the Congress shall have the power to impose taxes, duties, and imposts. A tariff is a kind of tax. It falls under duties, technical stuff you don't need to worry about. But he has no authority to do this. And these foreign governments, they know that. They know that their customers at the border are paying the tariffs, and they're all filing under protest to get their money back. Now, I just had something shipped to me where they made an additional tap on my credit card to cover the tariff. If you're a consumer, you're probably never going to get your money back because various retailers who you buy something through are not going to go through their records in all likelihood and go through 8 million purchases and say, here's your $7.50 or your $52. So we'll be net losers at the end of the day here. And remember that Donald keeps attacking the Canadians. I was in Toronto over the weekend for my seventh child's 40th birthday.
Oh, that's
and boy, in everywhere we went, what did we hear from Canadians? They are really ticked off at the United States. The United States is no longer our friend. We need to have new friends. China is going to be one of our new friends. We're going to make better friends with Japan. And what's wrong with you Americans, that you're leaving this madman, this crazy person there. And they're also insulted that Trump asserted that Canada's an insignificant part of trade. It's our biggest trading partner. It's bigger than China. It's our biggest partner. They really are very angry, and all sorts of commercials. Normally, I pay no attention to sport, but Jennifer and I watched the World Series in our hotel room, and there were all these jingoistic ads, Canadian jingoism, that they were subtle, but whether they're selling beer or hotel rooms or pizzas, Canadian, Canadian, Canadian. You know, we're what good people we are, and that's long run very, very bad for the United States.
Well, the fact that you talk about them as so angry, and they really are generally a pretty, move along, get along crew. They're like the most laid back, wonderful. They're like Americans, but less angry. You know what I mean?
Well, Americans with more civilization. You don't find any filthy bathrooms in Canada, and you can find bathrooms you can use everywhere, and nobody says to you, "Are you buying something?"
Yeah.
I mean,
Canadians are boycotting with the purchasing power they have, says Obi-Wan. Yeah, that as well.
They are. There's a wonderful book. It's almost impossible to find because there were only printed like 5,000 copies, called Canada, the Almost Perfect Country. But if you can find a copy of that, maybe it's now on Google Books, and you can get an e-version of it, a PDF e-version of it. It's really quite a good book about Canada and how they're more civilized than we are.
Well, the trade situation is kind of what you were alluding to, or what they were alluding to. The world is being pushed to China and to alternative trade relationships because of the embattled nature of the U.S. president. I mean, it's just crazy. Who wants it? And the deal you make this week may not be good next week.
No one in our lifetimes has done more to advance China's effort to dominate the world the way we have for the last 75 years than Donald Trump. It's astonishing what he has done. And by the way, one little point, I don't want someone to get upset about this. If you're an indigenous person, or what they call First Peoples in Canada, you certainly don't think that they were much better than we were. They're not quite as bad, but pretty damn awful to indigenous peoples.
Yeah, the horrors
of talking about you generally see things in the world today as you walk through downtown Toronto, or you're out in Brampton, where we were most of the time. You just see a much more thoughtful, civilized, thoughtful economy. Nobody in Canada loses their home for health bills, and the Canadians are doing just fine economically. Things I was most struck by is every time I cross the border, it's about 90 miles from my home, you get into Ontario and there's just construction everywhere. Apartment buildings, houses, townhouses, factories, logistics centers, laboratories. They are really on a tear. I can't remember where I've seen a place in the U.S. that was like that since the 70s.
The way in which both countries could do well with good relationship and trade, that just seems to be lost. He always needs an enemy, and he's chosen our friends and primary trading partners to be enemies with. So it's inexplicable. But if you're the guy who can explain it, because you know your client better than anyone. I mean, you've written chapter and verse on this guy. But let me get to the money also. The Argentine bailout, $40 billion, which is just done to take care of the hedge fund investors who are heavily into Argentina, and their
that was a bailout of a fascistic politician who's failed. Who's more than half of Argentinians are now living in poverty because of his policies. A bailout of him politically, which was important to Trump, but it's also a bailout of these speculators on Wall Street, who were going to lose 90% of their money. Now they're going to have a chance to get off with a much lighter haircut. They're still not going to get everything they wanted, but that's the way Trump operates. We're going to take care of our friends. I'm president of the United States for people who support me and my friends, and everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it appears that is the case with Argentina, and then he turns to Latin America with warships when it comes to Venezuela, and we've had these extrajudicial killings of, and again, it's clear maybe some of them were, we were talking about this, I think, last conversation, some of them might have been drug boats, but it appears that there were actual fishermen who lost their lives in all of this.
On the flight to Malaysia, Trump was asked by a reporter, well, if you think that these people are an invasion of the U.S., why don't you ask Congress to declare war? And Trump said, I don't think we needed that. We're just going to keep killing them. He has no legal authority to kill them. That's why one of the most senior military officers resigned last week. He hasn't said why he resigned, but people around him and know him have told reporters who cover the military that that's why he resigned, because he was not going to carry out illegal orders. And there was somebody in the Trump administration, I did not catch who they were, but said, well, of course they're drug dealers. They were out in the Caribbean in the middle of the night. It's like, excuse me, do you understand nothing? The fish the fishermen want to catch to eat or sell when the sun is out dive down to 100 feet or so because predators will eat them. When it's dark at night, they come to the surface to eat the jellyfish and the other things they dine on if they're predators up at the top. And that's why the fishermen are out there in the middle of the night. And then Trump said, well, you know, the reason we have to hit these with a missile is that our Coast Guard cutters are too slow to catch these boats. That's equally just stupid, because we have satellite imagery and drones, so we know where your boat is if you're heading in our direction. And if you're heading in our direction with an outboard motor and Puerto Rico is 600 miles away, you're not heading to Puerto Rico. You can't get there. But what you do is you send out your Coast Guard cutters and you array them so that they run into you. And what do you do then? You tell them, heave to. You don't do that, you fire machine gun or cannon across their bow to make the message. And if you don't do it then, now you shoot the bridge.
Sure.
But, you know, Trump, the draft dodger, knows nothing about stuff like this, but that isn't something you need to have had any military experience to be able to figure out. It's just Donald assumes the poorly educated will accept his premises.
Well, he does state them so vigorously. And truly what we're talking about here is not a military exercise. It's these drug interdiction moments, I think, fall into the world of law enforcement, international law enforcement. I understand that there might be a military backup, but this military, it's almost fetishized by this administration and by Trump. And of course, Hegseth loves it because he is, you know, completely one-dimensional. He's really just a talking head from Fox who's running the Defense Department and is just excited to have this chance to produce a military flex. But there's real danger here, David. I mean, in some kind of war or even combat, limited though it might be, in Venezuela and Colombia.
Yes, and, you know, turning your friends angry and turning your friends against you. Tell me somewhere in the world that that's a smart strategy, whether it's personal relationships, business relationships, or international diplomacy. It just goes to Donald Trump has no idea what he's doing. He's in way over his head. He's being enabled by people who around him are themselves not competent. I mean, the basic things we know that always happen when you're setting up a dictatorship. It doesn't matter left or right. It doesn't matter if you're Mao or President Xi in China, or Stalin, or you're Franco in Spain, Mussolini, Hitler. First, you put family in key positions because you can trust family. Then you deliberately appoint incompetent people who will be totally loyal to you, like Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and especially RFK Jr. Then you do outrageous things to establish your invincibility. I can do anything. And that's Trump's claim. You know, he has this right to do anything I want. Those are his words, not mine. And if nobody stands up to him, that becomes the reality of it. And what we should really be troubled about is all of these Republicans in Congress who know better. Not every one of them. Some of them think Donald Trump is the best thing since sliced bread and maybe better than sliced bread. But the failure to protect your own institutional interests, you know, or as I taught my law students the other day, you know, we went through word by word, every word in the Constitution, Article 2, took it apart. And then I said, now let me reduce all this to a simple, memorable line for you. Article 2 says the President of the United States is the errand boy of Congress who will do what is directed by Congress, and he's the commander-in-chief of the military. That's all. And yet he's acting as if they're subordinate to him. And we're subordinate to him. No, I'm sorry. We're his boss, not him. He's not our boss. That's why we don't have kings. But all of this failure to understand our Constitution, the principles of freedom and liberty, that this is the result of decades of cutting back on the quality of teaching, saying, "Oh, it's too hard for my children. You know, you're being mean. They have to do all this homework. You want my child to read the Constitution?" That kind of thing. And we're paying a price for that. And it's a terrible price that we're paying.
Well, I feel people just generally know the Second Amendment if they're, if that's their jam, or they know First Amendment if that's their jam. I mean, after that, I think there's sort of a general breakdown. But, as we finish up, David, I think it remarkable that there can be sort of a bald-faced corruption. And I really feel as though that corruption may be the Democrats, because they're the opposition party in this flawed two-party system. That may be the Democrats' message if they want to pick it up. I mean,
if that's the only message the Democrats have, Donald Trump is corrupt, incompetent, idiotic, and a threat to your liberty, they're not going to win. That's too pointy-headed. That's too college-educated or independent thinking. What the Democrats need to do is they need to do that. I'm not saying they shouldn't do that. But what the message they need to have is, here's what we're going to do for you. We will make your life better. We will bring down the cost of drugs. We're not going to set up a business to profit off the cost of drugs as Trump is doing. We are going to create an economy where wages are going to grow. We are going to protect the environment so that you aren't going to have a heart attack in 20 years because of particulates in the air that bit by bit are sickening you without you even realizing it. What are you going to do for me is the reasonable question to ask the Democrats. Don't just tell me you're going to deal with Trump. You're expected to deal with Trump. That's like saying I should be praised because I changed diapers when I had little kids. That's ridiculous. Of course you have to change diapers. And the job is, what are you going to do for me? And so let me leave you with something I hope people keep in mind. The Rand Corporation study that I don't think I inspired, but that came out after my books about the economy and all the changes in the income distribution and wealth distribution, said that in 2018, when Donald Trump was in his first term, if we had had the same distribution of income as 1973, the peak year for 90%, people's average income in the 90% would have been 2/3 higher. So if you made 100,000, you would have made 167,000. If you made 50,000, you would have made $83,500. Imagine how much better everybody in the 90% would be if they had 2/3 more income. People wouldn't be worried about paying their bills, paying for electricity. They'd have some savings. They'd be able to spend some money on things to bring joy in their lives. That's what the Democrats need to say, that you are having your pockets systematically picked by the Trump Republicans or the Trumpublicans, and we want to change that. We're in favor of creating wealth. We're really good in America at creating wealth, but we need to have a fair system for how the fruits of our economy are distributed. And that doesn't mean we're giving money away to people for doing nothing. It means we're going to change the rules that suppress your wages, your benefits, raise your costs. We want to go back to 1973 when you were much better off.
Yeah, that's a great takedown. I hope that corruption gets into that conversation alongside, as you say, what is a real solid message. And I hope that there's a political process that can follow it all, because it seems this will be talked about as we continue, David, weekly. There's a real effort to derail it. So it doesn't matter what you say. We're running the show now, and you can save it.
And you won't say what we don't like, or we'll come after you.
Yeah, I mean it's a real threat. Thank you, sir. Always great to visit with you.
David
Cay Johnston. Yep. See you next week. All right. Right on.
with your iron rod.
I come from regular stock.
There's a reason that this place is fun. Don't ever use that word.
What are the porn stars doing, Mark?
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
What you say is the political dogma that they're trying to shove down our throats.
Straight up right in, no problem.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm loving it, loving it, loving it. I thank you for joining us. If you haven't yet, please respectfully smash the like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Do it hard. Do it like you care. It costs you nothing, and thumbs up in this ridiculous world of YouTube that we live in actually helps the show. Tony, I have a question for you.
Yes.
My signal during the David Cay Johnston conversation was degrading occasionally. Was that from David, or is that because my signal is a degraded signal?
I saw you fine the whole time. I saw David kind of had a couple dropouts.
Okay, so I feel better because I am always assuming that's me. And
you had a little bit, I think, in the beginning, but you've been good since the beginning of the show.
Yeah, okay.
Girl, you just woo.
Well, thank you very much. I am excited about Kim's news. Kim, will you update this Hurricane Melissa?
I will.
Made landfall in Jamaica. I saw winds of 185 miles an hour. I mean, that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to get a quick snapshot of what's going on. And then Dr. Daignault's coming through.
Dr. Daignault will be here. It is flu season, and so he'll talk about vaccines and who should get them, and also I wanted to ask him about that whole Trump admitting that he had an MRI and a cognitive test situation. So we'll check in with him on that. One thing that we were going to get to that we didn't, and I know Tony found it, I think, is someone had talked about the video of Trump wandering aimlessly in Japan, and I don't know if we ever found that video.
Yes. So if you're just joining us, we mentioned this, and we said we'd rally it for you. Let's see it now. Tony, this is Trump wandering aimlessly. If Biden had done this, they would have eaten him for breakfast. But Trump can wander aimlessly, and sometimes he just makes it look cool. So there's the Japanese leader really kind of trying to direct him. And she goes over and again.
Maybe he was just trying to talk to the band people while they were playing.
Yeah. Well, he loves crowd work. I mean, he's a really great one for crowd work. Yeah, I don't blame him.
All right.
She really, yeah.
Where's he going? Oh, no, they're trying to show him where to go. Okay. Oh, he's got to go to the receiving line here.
Yeah, he goes past the press, and then there's...
Yeah.
He really, I don't know if he's wandering aimlessly, but it does have and can certainly be construed as an aimless kind of walk around that room. He certainly did. But it also looked like he was just kind of receiving all of the different people who were there. I mean,
right?
Yeah, it looked like he was just doing a loop of the room.
Yeah,
it's obviously a loop.
You know me.
The camera can't see that corner that it's walking towards him. Is what it looked like to me.
I mean, look, I'm not.
But that's the video.
I'm not a fan. I've told you, but I'm also not going to take a cheap shot if I feel like it. Yeah. But I look. I like any video of him meandering about, and also. I always think to myself, he's thinking, when can I get back to like stacking money and, going after brown people or whatever, whatever I really like to do. I don't know. I mean, look, let's be just brutally honest. Trump's in it for the money. Okay. Trump's into everything for the money. He's got very, very simple transactional relationships with everything. And sadly, that is bad news for the American people and bad news for America. But all of this stuff that he's doing right now is kind of like, God, this is just the stuff I have to do before I make this deal that enriches my family further. So I know there are probably those who go, come on, Mark, that's too so much of a simplification. Of course, it's an ultra simplification, but I'm telling you, it's all transactional with this president. And so, yeah, money and staying out of jail. Who said that? CC Ryder? Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. We think we did this, Mindy. We shared yesterday, didn't we? Trump dancing with the band when he got off the plane. Remember, Tony? We shared. It was part of that rap package that we did.
We didn't air it.
We were going to, and we didn't. Yeah, that was pretty funny though.
Pre-show. Maybe you can rally that.
Yeah, I'll find it right now.
Yeah,
he hops out. He starts. He's jamming. He's
did
dancing.
His thing where he does that. Yeah. It's good.
We also have video of him today. I don't know if we showed it, of him arriving aboard that aircraft carrier in Japan.
Oh yeah.
And he comes in on these fancy planes, and then they have this elevator down, and the music swells, and the crowd claps, and the crowd goes.
Oh yeah,
roars,
Tony's got it here. Tony
yeah.
will show it to you. Here you go. Well, this is the stuff that he loves,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is the stuff he loves.
The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, and that's stuff he loves. Coming down an elevator, and there's the big reveal. So
yeah.
So we'll get the picture and pictures of him dancing. I mean, he's the president. There's some ridiculous, crazy, how is Trump president moments, and there are also these scary moments and things he says, and we try to be kind of equal opportunity sharers when it comes to that, so we bring you both. Here is Donald Trump arriving in Malaysia, and this is what we're talking about. There's a band playing there, and Donald Trump he's getting into it. He's getting into it. Yeah.
Is that the leader of Malaysia who's next to him dancing?
I presume so.
Yes.
That's fun. Yeah. Fun times.
I mean, it's festive. Has any of you gotten off of Air Force One arriving in Malaysia? It's a festive moment. Yeah. And good for him. Yeah. It's I'm saying
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So that was Donald Trump dancing. Look at all of that dancing. They really get into it.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
I don't think there is. I don't know. Wow. That's
girl, you just
yeah.
That's funny.
Pretty.
I mean, at least if he's in a good mood dancing, it means he's not blowing up boats and sending the National Guard. And we're taking his attention to the music and the fun, right?
I'm concerned. I hope you're right. Anyway, all right. Kim's News and the Good Doctor. Smash the like button
with your iron rod.
Share the show. Share the David Cay Johnston conversation. We continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Hurricane Melissa is battering Jamaica. It is one of the most powerful hurricane landfalls on record in the Atlantic Basin. Life-threatening flooding, several feet of rain, and landslides all expected from Melissa as she crosses the western part of the island nation. The deputy chairman of Jamaica's Disaster Risk Management Council is urging people to seek shelter and stay indoors as this storm, with 185-mile-per-hour winds, crosses the island. He said, Jamaica, this is not the time to be brave. This is going to be a bad one. Israeli warplanes are carrying out powerful strikes in the Gaza Strip. That according to a statement from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office after he accused Hamas of violating the ceasefire. Netanyahu ordered the new attacks after hostage remains were identified yesterday as the name of a deceased hostage who was previously recovered from Gaza in 2023. So unknown if that played a role on these attacks or what's happening with that, but it looks like the ceasefire is definitely being broken. The Department of War says the United States conducted more strikes on alleged drug boats. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth saying 3 lethal strikes on 4 vessels were carried out in the Eastern Pacific yesterday. A total of 14 people were killed in those strikes. 1 person did survive. The United States has struck several suspected drug boats in the Caribbean as well as the Pacific Ocean, drawing criticism from some Democratic lawmakers as well as the presidents of Venezuela and Colombia. Democratic-led states and Washington, D.C. suing now the Trump administration as millions are set to lose food assistance on Saturday. This is the federal government shutdown stretches to the 4-week mark. On Saturday, funding runs out for food aid programs for more than 40 million Americans. The poorest among us will be in dire straits. Visitors to federal parks, speaking of the shutdown, might want to avoid the public restrooms because many across the United States haven't been cleaned since the shutdown started weeks ago. So the facilities are a little worse for wear. Some parks like Rock Creek in Washington, D.C. have set up porta potties. Sanitation crews from the National Park Service are among the 9,000 plus of the agency's 14,500 employees furloughed.
This is the practical aspect of the government shutdown. I grew up in Washington, so I know Rock Creek and I know the bathrooms well. I mean, using them for decades. But I would just say that, this is the stuff that is not thought about and will never be thought about. Just the fact that the defacing of national monuments, that because there are no park police around and because there are no rangers around, and all the kind of things that you can undo, but it's just going to cost you more money on the other side. And then there are things you cannot undo. I mentioned the defacing of monuments. That was the case during the last shutdown, during the first Trump administration. And there were things that were lost forever. I mean, defaced permanently. And so, again, the bathrooms overflowing, the government coming unraveled, you not being able to get anybody at the Social Security Administration for those things that you need desperately. And of course, the monies, as you suggest, Kim, that have run out for SNAP recipients and those who desperately need public assistance. It's a travesty. It's a travesty. It's grotesque, and the fact that it's pure politics is despicable.
I know Dr. Daignault has arrived, so I'll just run through the headlines of the next few stories just so people know what's going on. President Trump is appealing his New York hush money conviction in the Stormy Daniels case. Remember those 34 felonies? Trump's lawyers claim the charges should never have been brought against Trump. They say the case was politically motivated. Of course, he was found guilty in connection with making hush money payments to Stormy Daniels right before the 2016 election. The Attorney General of Texas announcing a new lawsuit against the drug makers of acetaminophen. Look at how I said it. Look, rolled right off the tongue. I know.
Really?
Good.
I said acetaminophen, commonly known as Tylenol.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
The Republican Attorney General, Ken Paxton, says he's suing the manufacturers for deceptively marketing Tylenol to pregnant mothers, which is an accusation that's been made by President Trump. Tylenol, one of the only over-the-counter pain medications considered safe for pregnant women, but the Attorney General of Texas is claiming that the makers have ignored the evidence that acetaminophen. Oh no,
acetaminophen, commonly known as Tylenol.
It could cause autism and ADHD, and we'll ask the good doctor about that. House Republicans asking for the Justice Department to launch an investigation into the use of an auto pen by the Biden administration. Specifically, Pam Bondi looking into the use of auto pen for pardons. California's special election on Prop 50, the measure that could reshape California's congressional districts, has seen over 4 million ballots returned so far. Interestingly, about split when you look at registered Democrats and Republicans returning those ballots. So America is getting skinnier. The weight loss drugs may be a contributing factor.
Oh, that we should ask Dr. Daignault about that. Yeah,
according to a self-reported Gallup poll, for the first time in more than 15 years, obesity rates in the United States have fallen from almost 40% in 2022 to 37% today.
Wow.
Put that coffee down.
I'm washing down my Ozempic, so please leave me alone.
You don't have to do it. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
So good. I'm drinking a whole pot of this stuff.
Oh, is it ever good. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. They've got amazing coffee, amazing tea. Please go to the website. They have copious tasting notes listed, so it's easy to figure out what you might like. And we have a super special secret code for the Mark Thompson Show. It is Mark T, no spaces. Mark T will get you 10% off. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Come on, everybody. We're going to finish strong. Got a real doctor in the house. Quickly, a note. The super chats and super stickers are live still, as we are a live show every day for 2 hours, 2 to 4 Eastern time. Pray for the poor, and they're receiving food from somewhere. This is so terrible, and we all feel this in one way or another, says Unvarnished Clarity Sessions. Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it's more than, well, I'll just say, a lovely sentiment, pray for the poor, but I'm angry for the poor. I'm angry about this. This is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Copious is a ding word, says Nullafidi.
Oh,
She did
excellent.
use copious, yeah.
I'll take it.
My doctor said do not take ibuprofen. I'm going to ask our doctor, the official doctor of the Mark Thompson Show is Dr. Michael Daignault, who's coming up in seconds.
He's having a bit of a connection issue, so we're working on it.
All right. That is not related to
acetaminophen, commonly known as Tylenol.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's not related to Tylenol, though, the connection. But Myra says, thank you for supporting independent media. That is something worth noting. We are independent media. We do need your support. Without your support, we go away. I mean, it's that simple. So thank you guys for your support. $10 is the kind of support we're talking about from James Bliss, who has the coolest name in the chat today. Thus far that I've seen, anyway.
Yeah.
Kim, please give Mark a timeout. He needs to go to his room. Wow. Good day, sir.
Good day, sir.
I didn't realize that.
Do you feel like you need a break?
I don't know.
This is a man with anger. This is a man that has resentment towards you.
I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. It's my the anger that I have and the resentment I have is buried under other anger and resentment. That is really the way my world is set up.
Got to dig down deep.
Yeah? What's that?
You got to dig down deep to find it.
You got to dig down 2 levels.
Mm-hmm.
I just got off the phone with the IRS after calling for 10 days, said Chaplain Fred, to solve some tax issues, I was calling them. That was generated by AI by mistake, per IRS representative. Speaking with the representative, she was frustrated, sad, and tired. I'll bet. She's not getting paid. It's crazy.
Not easy to be a federal worker right now. I mean, it's brutal for them.
It's brutal. Yeah. On the boycott, or I should say the shutdown, and those who are not showing up, there was, it went away. I thought it was a good comment. Shadow producer Calvin Wong, I believe, suggested on the bathrooms that are no longer in service in the federally maintained parks, national parks, he said, take a crap in the woods like a bear does, which is always thank you very much for that.
Wow.
Yeah. And then somebody else suggested always keeping a roll of toilet paper in the car.
That's smart.
Is it? I think it's a bit.
That's a Boy Scout maneuver. Always be prepared,
I guess it's smart. It just never really occurred to me. I don't know. All right. We've got the doctor back. All right. Let's go. Let's do this.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This guy is an honest-to-goodness ER doc. He takes time out of the ER. He scrubs down and he spends time with us once in a while. When he visits, we do it in a segment called...
He just he says he keeps cutting out. He's going to try to connect via his phone. He just literally just while you were introducing him,
yeah. I was
sorry
really,
about that.
Was really
just
winding
having some
up.
connection
was
issues.
Winding up like a World Series pitcher with that intro, and now I'm.
Well, now just on to picture
now I'll
number
read
9
this.
or 10.
Michelle Walton said, "I lost my $23 a month food assistance, and Medicare Healthcare Advantage plan is now non-existent. I had to find a new plan. Copays are high. I can't afford to lose any more weight. I'm 94 on the dot. That's how much Michelle weighs, 94 pounds. Jeez. These kinds of stories are sad, and they should make you angry. And so, again, it's really what's happening for political reasons. Now we have Dr. Daignault, who is a doctor of internet connections as well as a doctor of the medical profession. As he sets up, I'll read this last comment from CC Ryder, and thank you for a $10 super chat, because the super chats are one of the ways in which we support ourselves. So
big shout
out to CC Ryder. Yo, DOJ, CC Ryder says, please share the legal citation alleging the use of an auto pen is a crime. I'll wait. Yeah. This is Trump being angry, saying, I want you to find something on Biden and using that auto pen. You know that's the tantrum that they're responding to. So, hi, Mark and Kim says Velvet. Velvet is a strong name. I love that as well. All right. Judy says, I lost my $24 a month food stamps too. When I ordered groceries over the weekend, I couldn't apply any EBT. Yeah, I mean, and isn't that the problem? All right. Do we have him now, Tony?
Looks okay.
All right. This is House Calls. No?
Sorry, give me a minute. I didn't know we had a thing.
When we drop the video, in post, this will all be cleaned up, everybody. Don't panic. Tony has control over the open. Dr. Daignault has an open.
Is it in the system?
We've used it a few times. Isn't it in the system? Kim, I asked you.
Looking for some good medical advice?
Supposing you brought the leg inside the body.
Let's hear what a real doctor has to say. This is Vital Signs on the Mark Thompson Show.
He is a real doctor. Out of the ER, he scrubs down to spend some time with us, Dr. Michael Daignault. Look at you, you handsome devil, with your short-sleeved, what is that thing called? The smock thing? It's not quite... Yeah, scrubs, exactly. That was it, scrubs. I love it.
Yeah, it's just in between a bunch of shifts, so
thank you for joining us.
Less wardrobe changes, the better. So.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Well, it's great to have you here. I want quickly to first, I'm going to start with your favorite president, Donald Trump, who has referenced MRI scans. He was like it's a weird brag that he was talking about these MRI scans, but he did talk about them. So what could they be? What are they? To what extent do you know anything about this MRI thing?
Well, if you think back October 10th, when he had his physical at Walter Reed, and the report after that mentioned that he had quote unquote advanced imaging, but they didn't really give any more details about that. And then just to suddenly announce in the last couple of days, oh, by the way, I also had an MRI and it was perfect. It just raises a lot of flags for somebody red flags for somebody who's 79 and is supposed to be at the peak level of cognition and functioning to run our country. And as a doctor, an MRI is not part of a routine physical exam at all. And I just wish they would be a little more forthcoming. And so, that's just going to lead to a lot of speculation, which a lot of doctors on appearing on TV have discussed, and we're going to do that here as well. And so, remember back when he met President Putin in Alaska and he was walking a little wobbly down that red carpet, and then there was a couple other instances where we saw him falling asleep and it looked like he had a little bit more of a pronounced facial droop than you would expect. This, when I hear MRI, and knowing what's been going on with him, and then especially last night, I don't know if you saw the video of him in Japan with the new Japanese prime minister walking around their ballroom there, and he had to be directed every which way, either by her or one of the soldiers there. He had no idea what was going on. I'm sure there's a lot of pomp and circumstance involved in what you're meant to do there, but So going back to the MRI, I mean, I would put money on a brain MRI. Usually we use MRIs after the fact if somebody's had a stroke and we want to see if there's evidence of like smaller microvascular strokes that just come from, bad heart disease and plaque in the brain, just that you would see in the heart. And so my suspicion is some sort of MRI. And even if he says it was perfect, meaning there was nothing acute, I mean, they might be looking for changes in the brain structure and in the blood flow to sort of follow up on what's been going on with him.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing damning about having an MRI, although it's interesting because, as you say, I mean, almost would have to be, as you're speaking, it makes total sense that it would be something around the brain because I don't, he's not MRIing his pitching shoulder. You know what I mean? He's not.
Right.
He's fascinating nonetheless. And it was just weird that he was so open about it. So he was open about the MRI. He wasn't open about what the MRI was really about. Tell me about flu season and the best time to get the flu shot. I kind of feel like that's got to be close to now.
Yeah, we like to say flu before boo, meaning you got to get that flu shot right before Halloween, and Halloween is Friday. And the reason we say that is because it takes about 2 weeks for your immunity to build up to the point where that flu shot is providing protection. And so we want that to be well before people start traveling for Thanksgiving, which, the biggest travel time of the year for Americans, and you got to give it that 2 weeks. And so
what kind of protection is it providing this season? I mean, it does seem to change season to season.
Correct. So if you look at last year, the data that we had in retrospect was that it was 40% effective against preventing symptomatic disease such that you would need to be seen by a doctor. So severe enough that you would end up in the ER or seeing your primary care doctor. And then this year, because we always look at the Southern Hemisphere for their experience of the flu season because they have winter before us. And so that's always usually Australia. And the data this year shows that it's improved. So it's 50% protective against symptomatic disease. And so that means that there's probably even greater protection against, milder symptoms or, keeping you out of the hospital. So, and death, of course. And so the other thing that's really interesting this year is that this is the first time you can order the flu mist nasal spray vaccine to be sent to your house. I actually just ordered I was going to give it a shot. I ordered mine last week, and it actually comes next week, but it was, you put in your insurance information, you put in your medical information. I was approved within 5 minutes. You just pay like $9 for the shipping costs. And so that's a nasal spray vaccine. And the theory is that if you think about all respiratory viruses, they usually get into our system via the mucosal membranes, the lining of our nose and our mouth. And so putting that vaccine in your nose to increase IgE, which is the immunoglobulin that protects against viral respiratory diseases, supposed to enhance the protection, that you have more of a shield right in the area where you're usually going to get infected. And it seems to be that in theory, it could do better with that than getting a shot in the arm. So we'll see. We'll see what the data shows after this year, but that's a good option for people that just don't like needles.
That's really interesting. And it does work. You're saying you send away for it and you send away for approval and then you get it at the pharmacy. Is that it?
No, they mail it to your house.
Wow.
And you put it right in the fridge. And
that's wild.
I think the shelf life is maybe like a few weeks, but it might be a little late to order it now. It might take a week and a half, but
I don't mean to, since I don't really know anything of medicine, this may be a totally wild thing, but it seems sort of like almost medieval to suggest just because the flu manifests as a thing that you have a lot of nasal respiratory stuff with, somehow spraying into the nose is a more effective way. I mean, it's your whole immune system that's reacting, isn't it?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, it just makes so much more practical sense that for these viral respiratory illnesses, why aren't we only doing nasal spray? And so
I don't know. Yeah, yes and no. I'm kind of saying I don't know. Or isn't the injection just isn't that working your whole immune system? It's basically reminding your immune system of this thing that may attack it later, isn't it? You don't have to remind your nose. Your whole immune system knows.
Yes, you're right. With the shot in the arm, it sort of spurs the entire immune system. But again, when we talk about specific frontline protection against the the respiratory infection in the nose or the mouth, the theory is the nasal spray does more to boost IgE than a shot, just because it's right there. I mean, eventually the shot in the arm is going to, catalyze the IgE in your immune system to mobilize to your nose and your mouth to provide protection. It just seems like I don't know. We'll see. I'll be the guinea pig for how well this works, because I always get the flu shot. I never get the flu. Knock on wood. So we'll report back.
That's great. That's great. My last question is to double back to our fearless leader, Donald Trump. He was peacocking about his, he called it an IQ test that he was acing. But in reality, it was a cognitive exam to sort of assess someone, I think, after a stroke or after some kind of maybe cognitive hits that he's taken. So, I don't know if he challenged AOC to take the same kind of test that he's taken. And it was an odd thing to peacock about. And it was the MRI that he was talking about that we mentioned. It was sort of adjacent to that same test. So it's kind of consistent with the story you were talking about involving the possibility of a stroke or assessing for a stroke.
Yeah, no, I think you answered the question. I mean, he's confusing the two tests. I think when he was challenging AOC, I think in his mind, he was thinking of an IQ test, right? But the test that he had was for cognition. It's the test that we screen for like early onset of dementia. So that's the test that he got. But I think you're right, peacocking, thinking that he was challenging somebody on an IQ test. Obviously, AOC is not at the stage where she's taking cognitive tests yet. So
I mean, this is the man, woman, camera, TV thing. I mean, it was like earlier man or person. What I mean, it's that kind of basic thing. They give you a bunch of numbers. You have to then repeat them in reverse order. These are the kinds of things you do. It's not an IQ test. It's a simple cognitive test. So it's funny that he's a creature of his own universe, and everybody has told him that he knows everything about everything. He'll tell you that he knows everything about everything, and they all just bow. So when it comes to medical science, it becomes particularly concerning. You have RFK Jr., who's also completely subordinated himself to Trump. And then in closing, I wonder if you can just touch on what's happening at HHS. I guess it's all alarming, but I'm wondering if you see any daylight. Have they backed off a bit on any of their recommendations, or is it all just pretty grim?
Yeah, to bring it kind of full circle to Trump's visit to Walter Reed on October 10th, just to remind people, he got the flu and the COVID updated vaccine on those days too. And so it's kind of funny that you have your president getting the shot that your HHS secretary is saying not to get and trying to limit access for. So just think about that for a second. So at the end of the day, I mean, I think it's all performative. It's all performative politics for their base. But, like we've said before, all of RFK Jr.'s kids are fully vaccinated too. And so,
have the recommendations for pregnant women changed because of this whole Tylenol thing?
No, the official recommendations are still the same. And we had, multiple medical societies, including, mine with the American Academy of Emergency Physicians and the American Academy of Obstetricians, Gynecologists, Pediatrics. We're all in line on this, that the recommendations do not change. The Tylenol is still the safest option. And just to be honest, in the ER, I've had, there's that moment where we see a lot of pregnant women and they have a fever or they have pain and you suggest Tylenol. And there's this like slight, I've noticed, I feel it too. I'm like, oh boy, like I wonder what they're going to say. And, for the most part, nobody has been resistant. I think people get it. And the big caveat, especially, is when pregnant women come in with fever, it's so dangerous to not treat that fever. It's dangerous for the mom if that infection continues unabated and you're allowing that fever, that illness to rage. It's a danger for her. It's a danger to the baby. Most people do seem to accept still the medical recommendations of the doctor standing in front of them, which was great to see. I mean, I've only had a couple patients where, they've expressed, well, I've heard there's this concern about Tylenol, but it's an opportunity for us to educate and to explain, and people are receptive to it when I politely educate and explain why it's still important. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Does just tell me this or remind me, what's the most common thing you see in the ER?
Oh boy. Well, for me, and then the data supports it, it's abdominal pain, like stomach pain. That's the most common reason people come to the ER. And I expect, after the Dodgers game last night, we're gonna see a lot of people coming in with just stress-induced abdominal pain, or from heavy drinking or just binge eating in front of the TV, just watching that 18-inning, 7-hour classic of the game we saw
That's
last
wild.
night. But
If you're in the ER because of binge eating on the couch watching the game, that's a good reason to be in the ER. Dr. Michael Daignault, thank you. You can follow Dr. Michael Daignault on Instagram and across social media. Daignault is DAIGNAULT. I'm spelling it for people who are listening on Spotify and iHeartRadio. And he has got a lot of stuff out there. So Google him, and you'll, I think, learn something along the way. Very good information, and we love that you stop through here every so often. Thank you, Dr. Daignault.
Thank you, Mark. Good to see you.
Okay, good to see you, sir. That is Vital Signs for today.
Check your vital signs again next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
Woohoo!
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, he's a good doctor. He's a good doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me what I'm missing and where I am. Oh, my God, it's gotten late.
I know.
I didn't even know that. Jeez. Well, I guess I have another interview to do.
You got to wrap it up
in a couple of minutes. I got to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a very productive visit. I feel it's gone very well. The New York Times is reporting, says Randy, that the U.S. sunk 4 more boats operating in the Pacific. There has been no evidence or information provided that we actually know who it is that we're killing. That is concerning, to say the least.
As I reported earlier, 14 dead in these attacks against these boats. 1 survivor in this one.
Robert Schwartz says Trump doesn't want anything to be done on the government shutdown. He can do what he wants if the House is out of the way. Seems the House members would not relish giving away their power, but alas, they have. Certainly it's true. MRIs don't work, says Dirk Diggity, if you're smarter than the MRI. Right, I forgot. Oh, man. What a state we are in. I can only tell you that tomorrow brings a really special show. I believe John Rothman returns tomorrow, everybody.
Yes,
yeah.
He does.
And also a true hero in the world of getting legislation passed despite the headwinds of big money and big politics. Dr. Jennifer Conrad, she's a veterinarian who got legislation passed in California that was opposed by some of the biggest money in that field. We'll talk about how that happens and how the difference can be made by one person. And Belinda Weymouth will save the planet one Wednesday at a time. She is here tomorrow with It's the Planet, Stupid. So that's happening tomorrow as well. Thank you all for joining today and supporting the show in all the ways you do. Thank you, Tony. Thank you,
I'm
Tim.
Sheriff Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Some fun, some heavy, and more.
Bye-bye.
But we are out of time. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.